So the survey, nutrition cluster survey database, is a tool which supposed to help nutrition clusters to keep all the information from all the surveys in one place. So when you or cluster coordinator or cluster partners or somebody needs information for the analysis, you would not go through all the 50 or 70 surveys and so on. And you can just go to the survey database and get the information which you need. The tool consists of 4 different sheets depending on the type of the survey. The first is anthropometric nutrition surveys, which is mostly our SMART surveys, but it also can include any other anthropometric nutrition surveys, for example, MIX or DHS, or any other survey which collects this information. The second sheet is infant and young child feeding surveys, but again, it can be not only dedicated IYCF surveys, but also, for example, if you collect IYCF information during SMART surveys, you might have some indicators to put in the IYCF surveys sheet. Micronutrient deficiency surveys, which unfortunately are not yet so popular as other surveys. However, as well, it's recommended that the cluster would have information at least on iron deficiency, iodine deficiency, and vitamin A deficiency. And it's often collected as a part of the mix, for example. And the coverage surveys, which are also already done in some countries, and I will speak about this a bit more. So if we can go through each of the sheets very briefly, just to know what it is in them. The structure of each sheet is very different. It's very similar to actually 3 or 4W. You would have who is conducting the surveys, where you're conducting them, when you're conducting them, and then information on the survey quality, and actually the information which you are interested in, plus comments. Please don't be scared that the tool is so big. It was developed together with the CDC and ACF Canada and UNICEF and many other partners who have commented on this tool and provided their opinion on what information should be done in order for the cluster coordinator or partners or assessment or nutrition information working group to be able to analyze information. However, some of the tools, survey databases that are now available in the countries include less information. So it would be up to you which information you want to include or not. And when I say up to you, I mean not to you personally, but to you together with your partners. So you will have to decide what you will include and what you will not include. However, the tool which we are presenting is kind of best practices and what we would like to see in all nutrition clusters. So first you would have the donor for the survey under the WHO hidden, then funding through UN agencies. For example, if it's funded by ECHO, through UNICEF, and then UNICEF giving money to an NGO. Then main agency implementing the surveys. Other partners or government you are working in with on this survey. And then, of course, name and email of the focal point for the survey. So everybody who has the database can always contact for more information or clarification. The where part consists of geographical area which is covered by this survey. We have not done it like we do 3 or 4W when you have admin 1, 2, and 3 levels, for a very simple reason that sometimes you would have surveys at different admin levels, including at national level. However, if you wish, you can actually do it as a 3 and 4W. For example, if you know that majority of your survey is SMART, it makes sense for you to have pre-populated admin 1 or admin 2 for the where part. Then you would always need to put areas or villages which are excluded from the geographic area, which is normally happens because of security consideration. So when people analyzing your information for something else and make conclusions, they know what is not included, and then they know, for example, that if you said that your gum rate is 10%, but then you didn't include the village where you know that population starving because there is no access, you would assume that it's definitely in those areas it should be more than that. Number of clusters planned. You know that when you do the survey, you separate your areas into several clusters, and then depending on the number, like it's one of the important indicators which you should put, and then you have number planned and then number of visited to see actually whether you will be able to cover whatever you want. Number of household planned, number of children to be measured, and then some comments. The when part consists of the current status of the survey. This is for you to easily understand whether it's what is the status, whether it's planned and already funded, planned or not funded, ongoing, completed or validated. This is standard statuses which we are using across the country. Start date and then expected end date of the survey, or if the survey is already ended, then it's not expected, but it's already end date. And then season, which is only relevant to those countries where you have seasonality. For example, pre-harvest and post-harvest season, then for example, you do your assessments twice a year to see different situations. The survey quality includes indicators such as number of households visited, number of clusters visited, whether GAM was validated by the whatever process you have, whether it's a government or whether it's nutrition information working group or so on, whether stunting results were validated, mortality were validated, if preliminary report of results was received by the cluster, if final report received, and a plausibility check report attached or no. I'm not going to stop now on the explanation what it is, but then like if you would like and if you have some questions about this, we can do it later. Number of plausibility check penalty points, which actually shows how good you've done your survey, and you get it from the ENA check report. Points justified in report, so why you explain why the points you got, why you got them, and their overall comments on the quality. And then you are getting to the most important part, and it looks very big, but actually information which is presented here, it's not much. You put the type of assessment, so it would be SMART, Rapid SMART, DHS, Mix, 30 by 30, and then if you have any other surveys in your country which collect anthropometric results, you can just add them here in the admin sheet. And I'm coming back. Number of children analyzed for GAM, and then GAM with coincidence interval, and then separately GAM with coincidence intervals for boys, and the same for the girls. If there is a significant difference in GAM between sexes, which is important part of nutrition analysis, but you might think that it's not so important, but we would like to ensure that as this information always collected, that you have it in your database to facilitate the gender analysis of nutritional status of your beneficiaries. Then you would have the same information for the sum, and some quality information on the weight for height, including or excluding smart flags and so on. Again, this is just for overall quality of the survey. Then you would have information on the MUAC if you measured it, for the less than 125 and less than 115 but more than 125, including confidence intervals and the standard deviation. Information on stunting, again separately for boys and girls. Height for age Z score, which is information for which you derive your starting indicators. Crude death rate, under 5 death rate, and then vitamin I supplementation, measles vaccination coverage, and deworming coverage. 3 indicators which are often collected in the anthropometric survey. You see there are lots of information. I know that some people are actually only, for example, would put gum, and not even with coincidence interval, but just gum for the population as one number, which is generally does not help to analyze the situation. So I guess this is the discussion which should happen in the in your nutrition information or assessment working group, or with all the partners, on what information you should include or not. Very briefly, other surveys, IYCF surveys, the who, where, and when part is absolutely the same. The only thing that if this IYCF information you are putting was part of the nutrition surveys, you can just link it. Oops, status. Sorry, I have to fix it. You have to put here a link to the nutrition surveys cell where you have this report. So, and then the indicators which we are proposing to collect are 8 standard indicators which are recommended by WHO. And you have here name of this document with the recommended indicators. For each of these 8 indicators, we want to know the indicator and the confidence interval. So the main 8 indicators, just to name them, it's exclusive breastfeeding, early initiation of breastfeeding within 1 hour of birth, exclusive breastfeeding of children under 6 months, continued breastfeeding at 1 year, introduction of solid, semi-solid food, minimum dietary diversity, minimum meal frequency, and minimum acceptable diet. So it's all 8 standard indicators that are collected in emergency and not in emergency, which means that you can have this information also as a preparedness for the emergency. And again, survey quality, which is very simple here: number of households visited, number of clusters visited, if preliminary report received, if final report received, and then overall comments on the quality. So this this is less complicated than the nutrition surveys, but provides the information which is needed for decision making on IYCF. Micronutrient surveys is very similar. Who, where, and when parts are all the same. What part is depending on the type of deficiency measured. Vitamin A deficiency, iron deficiency, or iodine deficiency, you would have different indicators which you could have measured. For example, for vitamin A deficiency, it can be night blindness, Bitot spots, corneal ulcers, or maybe like other, which is very rare. Iron deficiency anemia, you would have hemoglobin, serum ferritin, serum transferrin receptor, or the combination of several. And then iodine deficiency, it's normally or urinary iodine or use of adequately iodized salt. We also kept other, just in case, when you can specify in comments what other micronutrient deficiency you measured, because in some situations some of other micronutrient deficiency can be of concern. But those 3 which we put are the most usually important. Then group of population assessed, unit of measurement of this indicator, indicator value, and the confidence interval. The survey quality are the same that for IYCF survey. And the last one is the coverage surveys, which with again who, where, when part the same. And just to mention here that, for example, if you had one survey and you collected, for example, several indicators like let's say anthropometric indicators and IYCF indicators, you can just fill it the information once on one sheet and then you just copy it to another sheet, so it wouldn't take much time. You would only need to fill your indicators. So coming back to the coverage surveys, after who, where, and when part, you would have coverage coverage survey indicators. So first you put program for which coverage was measured. For example, you measured it for SAM, or you measured it for MAM, or any other program. What was the type of survey? And then we put the most popular, and the most popular being sleek and squeak. Sampling method used, and areas classified as low coverage, which is normally only relevant to sleek surveys. and then you would put your single coverage in percentages with the confidence interval. Coverage surveys also usually identify barriers and boosters for successful or not so successful running of the programs. So we put all the main barriers and all the main boosters, why it can, like, so you just choose what is relevant for your survey in that area. And the survey quality, again the same. All the coverage monitoring surveys which are done through Slick or Squeak are always shared, or at least should be always shared with the coverage monitoring network, which developed this method. So we put also here URL link to survey on the CMN website, so everybody could access this survey. And that's it. It's not as complicated as it sounds, believe me. And as I said, it can be simplified if you want to. So now I finished the presentation, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Just to add that it's good practice to keep the raw data from surveys. Yes, that's why we always ask if preliminary report is received. And preliminary report usually includes the raw data. So we would like to emphasize that you need not only the final reports, but also the raw data. So your nutrition information working group can actually check the quality of the surveys conducted.
Okay, Anna, this is Dr. Mazhar from Pakistan.
Hello.
Yes, can you hear me right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Whatever you have explained in your presentation, is there any detailed presentation where all the points has been like a training material, so we can use this cluster survey database for our purpose over here?
Sorry, to use for what purpose?
We will be filling out this cluster survey database. We might need some more information on that. So is there any training material included in this package which we can use twice?
As such, we did not include the training materials because this is just a database to extract information from the surveys. This webinar will be available, but of course it doesn't go in depth. However, I guess the most difficult part for people who were not familiar with this is to extract information from the nutrition anthropometric surveys. But for
yes.
So for this, there is a training materials on the SMART methodology, which is available from the SMART methodology website. It's smartmethodology.org, I think, or maybe .com, but I think it's .org. So they have their course, 5 days training course on SMART methodology, and they have all the presentations for this course posted on their website, and they also have a detailed manual on the methodology. So I believe once you read the manual or go through the presentation, you would understand more information on the methodology of the survey, and then it would be very
cluster level. It is fine, but once we will be sending it to the partners, definitely we have to go and explain them, or we have to sit with them to extract that information. That's why I actually was looking.
Actually, the survey database is not to be sent to partners to fill in. The practice which we have in the country is that it's somebody from the cluster coordination team or from the assessment on nutrition information working group who is responsible for extracting this data to the survey. So partners only submit the reports, and then you extract it there for your analysis and for your internal use, and then of course you can share the ready the survey with all the survey database with all the information with the partners, so they see the compilation of the results. However, we are never asking them to fill in.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, lovely. At country level, who manage the database? Yes, so it depends. Usually, and I'm saying usually because it you can decide for your country what would be the better way. Usually, if you have nutrition information working group or assessment working group, it's them who are managing it. Very often is the chair of the assessment working group. If you don't have such assessment working group, it can be, well, government also, but sometimes it's information manager, or it's cluster coordinator, or it's deputy cluster coordinator, or it really depends. But usually it's a person who understands the surveys and who understands what information should be there, and then probably who would be using it for the analysis. And then, as a RT member, how can I access the database for certain country? Well, you can ask this country cluster coordinator if they have this database, and I would think they would normally share, unless there is some specific regulations from the government or some sensitivity around that, but this is normally not the case. The database, I don't think it exists in many countries currently. I only know like South Sudan have it. I think Yemen has it. I don't know if others who are on the call, if you do have the database for surveys currently, or how you collect the information and how you extract it. So if you can update us on that.
I think there are a number of surveys which has been conducted, but it's not a database actually. So that's why I'm looking more interested to have this database and to compile all this information at one place.
Yes, exactly. So that's why, because we know that not many countries have it, and then when you need to do analysis, you just have to go through all the reports and see, which is very difficult. So we do recommend to use it, even if you decide that it's too much for you and you want simpler version. Even if at least you can get some information already from reports extracted to database, it would help you enormously. We are also here at the global level are very happy to help you with the guidance or with the support, whatever you need to actually be able to implement it in your country. And I see Ethiopia has the survey database, and Ludwin is typing a message, but you can speak if you unmute yourself. Okay, I am muted.
Yes, Anna.
Yes, hi.
I wanted to know, at the beginning of the year.
Sorry, I stopped hearing you. Hello?
Anna, can you hear me?
Now, yes.
Anna, this is Lovely.
Okay. Hi, Lovely.
Yes, I think you replied my two questions. My other question is, for example, if I am preparing to go some country, not yet deployed, but getting ready to go, and I probably would like to see the database and things before I arrive to the country. How can I access those information?
Yes, so as I said, it's normally will be through the cluster coordinator or nutrition focal point or whoever is there in the country. But if there is a humanitarian response info website, then I would think that this should be regularly published on the website and can be downloaded for use by anyone.
No, also I was just kind of wondering, globally, like for GNC level, do you have?
No, that's not. No, that's not the purpose, and there is always some sensitivities with the governments of countries who might not want to share this information. So we don't have it at global level, and currently we are not planning to actually request to have it. However, just for everybody's information, WHO has nutrition landscape information system, and it's called NLIS, and if you type it WHO NLIS, you will get it. The purpose of it's not only for emergency, but for all the situations. They are trying to collect all the nutrition information from the surveys which are done, and it's normally responsibilities of partners who are conducting surveys to fill in this database. However, not many are doing this. So maybe some information can be accessed from there. However, it's not yet so full. So the best way is just at country level. Yes, and just to emphasize that no, GNC is not maintaining database. However, if you as countries would like us to at the end, like for example, send it to us, so we have an overview of the situations in different countries, we would be very happy to receive it.
I have one more question or probably request, because I mean, you presented very clearly. Thank you. It was very clear and very easy to understand. But the writings are so small. Do you think you can send us by email this so we can have a kind of another look and see actually what informations are
You
there?
mean to send what, the database?
Database, yes, if possible.
As all information management toolkit tools, it's posted on the GNC website, and in the invitation for this webinar there is a direct link to the place where it's posted, and after the webinar we will also upload this webinar here, so you can not only download the tool but also the webinar.
Okay.